Hello Blender artists, I'm Samuel Bernou, and in this video I want to show you how to use Storytools and Spark sequencer add-ons to make a storyboard in Blender. This is basically a time-lapse of me trying to draw a storyboard, so bear with my little drawing abilities, and hopefully you will learn how to do your own stuff with that. Let's start right away. So first, there is a new feature in Storytools that allow you to create static storyboard pages. So that way you can thumbnail your storyboard before going into an animatic. You have multiple templates that you can adjust, then add multiple pages. So here I'm doing the thumbnails of my storyboard. Here is the finished results. Once it's ready, you can again go to this menu, and here you can export all as image. And then you can create a PDF. The first time you need to install image to PDF module. It will freeze for a moment during the install. And after you can launch from render or a selection of image and the PDF is generated. Now to go into Animatic, we need a shot management solution. So here I'm going to use Spark, and you can download it from the repository. It's maintained by Nick Albarelli. It's a fork from Spark Sequencer add-on, so you just head to the release page and get the latest one. But you can also use Storypencil that is available from the extension platform if you prefer this solution. Now that Spark is installed and activated, let's talk about the workspace setup. If you already have elements in your blend file, you may want to load the workspace from this panel. You can see here that you have now two windows, one for the sequence and one for the scene. But if it's for a new file, you may want to use the new menu. So that way you already have basic template built in and the edit scene created. You still have to arrange the window. So for example, you can send the edits on another monitor if you have multiple screens. Or here I'm using a shortcut to snap one window on top of the other. Then in the Spark settings, select the edit scene and hit the synchronize toggle. Now every hovered scene strip in this window will be displayed on the other window. My little story takes place in a desert environment, so I'm quickly modeling some dunes. The little pen button makes the Storytools tab active. Now adding a new camera and using lock camera to view to move it around. Here I can add the scene strip through the short menu of Spark. Then a bit more modeling. Adding a grease pencil object using the drawing panel. Just before I placed the 3D cursor because I want the drawing there. Here the depth move tool is useful to fine-tune the placement. Here I decided to scale everything up to match real-world scale as much as possible. I'm using the scale figure feature of Storytools to have a better idea of a person's height. Bothering to set everything to scale is only useful if you want to use this scene as base for the layout and then animation. Don't forget to apply scale like I did, by the way. Here I'm activating on skinning and starting to draw multiple frames. Now let's focus on the color painting aspect for a moment, because it can be tedious in Blender. Here I'm using the fill brush, but it can be somewhat difficult to tune. That's why I like very much the Smart Fill tool in the Niji Pen free add-on. It's super powerful and helps quite a lot for this task. Just select the line layer and you're good to go. Now let's talk about the tool preset bar at the top, which is associated with shortcuts. When I press the key number 3, it selects the bucket fill, and at the same time it switches to layer color if it exists. When pressing 2, it selects the line layer and switching to the draw brush. Now in my situation, when pressing 3, I don't want to select the bucket fill, but I want the Smart Fill tool from Niji Pen. So here is how to customize. Open the Storytools preferences, look at the shortcut you're interested in. Here I need to report the name of the tool to activate. If you don't see this, you might need to enable the Python tooltip in Preferences. In this specific case, I want to empty the brush field because it overrides the tool select if the brush exists. Now, pressing button 2 or 3, I can super quickly switch between the line and the color. If you don't want it to change the layer as well, just remove that from the shortcut in Tool Preset Preferences. Moving the camera and keying to make a pullback movement here, using the dedicated camera controls. After keying, if you want to affect the animation, you have two choices. Uncheck the only selected property so that you can see everything that's animated. That can be quite overwhelming, so an easier solution is to select the camera to see the keys. Now onto the character movements. With the move forward or backward movement tool, there is a very useful thing. If you press Alt during the translation, it will snap onto a horizontal plane. Creating another object to add footprints using Surface Project. It's useful in case like this where is a camera movement and we want the details to stick to the geometry. Now a funny moment when the door decides to follow the character. It should have been on a separate object. When this happens, it's easy to separate, just duplicate the objects and remove what's unnecessary in each of them. A bit of color doesn't hurt. Now it's time to add the second shot. Here I pop up the new shot window. For the scene you have three choices. Use existing mean reusing the current scene displayed. You can show the same scene but through a different camera. New is an entirely new empty scene, but in this case I want to use the templates. Here I can navigate in my shots using the edit scene. Spark also comes with the handy shared folders feature, which is basically a link management between scenes. Here I'm adding only the dunes geometry within the collection. Now in the other scene, I can link the collection in one click. That really simplifies linking things between scenes. Control-click on Move Camera Forward affect the focal instead. Little hidden feature, if you press D, it toggles the dolly mode, meaning the camera will move as well, to compensate for the focal change. Here I add another grease pencil to serve as matte paint for the background. The in-front toggle can be useful and is accessible from the drawing panel. I messed up the placement of my strokes here, so in this case it's good to know that you can reproject your selected strokes in edit mode. Since here the strokes is the same as the previous frame, just longer, making an interpolate sequence using Ctrl-Shift-E simulates the strokes growing. When using Storytools control bar to add keys, if a key is already in place, it will offset by a chosen amount. Here I want to draw a wind effect, so it's nice to have the key spread evenly. Adding the third shot now. Now cleaning the shared collection where I accidentally added everything. This is basically a repeat of shot 1, so I let the time-lapse roll. Adding now the fourth and last shot of this demo. Same thing, using the basic templates. This is an interior scene, just looking at the wall, so I won't bother with geometry and go full grease pencil. Now to render the edit using Spark, we need to set a dedicated scene that will receive all the rendered shots. Here the environment is rendered fully black because I forgot to set the rendering as workbench. This engine is equivalent to directly render the viewport. For Storyboard it usually suffices. Now if I select the render scene and go into video editing, I have all the rendered strips in a sequencer. Now for the final touch, I want to add voiceover into the storyboard, because as you heard, I like voiceover. The push to talk free add-on is amazing for that. You have the button at the top right corner and you record while playing. And here I have the pleasure to make a voiceover over voiceover, which is quite nice. Checking the option for the final rendering. Here the final scene is also rendered. So in the folder you will find all the separate shots and the final video. Now it's the end of my demo and the beginning of your storyboard journey in Blender. I hope you learned some tips here and there, and I leave you with the results. Nothing again. Gotta keep looking.